Coming up on Your Money Matters, retirement myth busting. There's some big myths out there about retirement. We're going to shatter some of those myths. And we'll hear from Bob Powell from MarketWatch.com on his new article, Retirement in America is Endangered. That's coming up next on Your Money Matters, presented by the Presley Group.
And welcome back to Your Money Matters, your weekly peek inside the complex financial world. You listen to the show so you can retire with peace of mind. And what better people to tell you about that than Christy Smith, president of the Presley Group, and Matt Kennedy. Christy and Matt are experts at helping you plan for a successful retirement. They teach their clients how to position their retirement money to avoid losses due to stock market conditions. They have helped hundreds of clients achieve their retirement goals, and they can help you. Here are your hosts for Your Money Matters, Matt Kennedy and Christy Smith.
Good morning, and welcome to Your Money Matters, presented by the Presley Group. I'm Matt Kennedy. Christy Smith will be along shortly. Today, we're going to do some myth busting. There are so many myths out there, myths about retirement. We're going to shatter some of those myths and give you some reality coming up on the show as we move throughout the morning. Also, in just a moment, Bob Powell, Robert Powell from MarketWatch.com will join us to talk about his latest article, Retirement in America is Endangered. We'll get to that interview in just a moment. First, though, I want to bring in Taylor Clark. Taylor what is your job title?
I am the marketing director.
All right, Taylor, and you're also the guru who puts together our website, safemoneyplan.net. Now, you're constantly updating the website. First of all, you've got the Learning Center. Tell our listeners about the Learning Center.
Well, the Learning Center was put together to kind of be the go-to resource for just about anything you could want to know with regards to retirement planning, and that kind of thing.
Yeah, there's stuff about Social Security on there, estate planning, income planning, all that's on the Learning Center, correct?
That's right. I mean, it goes so deep as to, if you're looking for a resource on, how to prevent identity theft, we have information on there about that as well.
Good stuff. That's the Learning Center, and you find that at safemoneyplan.net. Now, the newest thing you've put up there, and I love this, is it's a downloadable report. It's free. You simply go to the website. You can download The Changing Story of Retirement. Bob Powell is going to talk about that in a moment. But this PDF file is, what, 30 pages or so? What does it cover? What is the changing story of retirement?
It goes real in-depth into a lot of things, but the majority of what it covers, it goes through the history of retirement in the United States, how it's been for the past 50 years, where it's at presently, and kind of gives an outlook as to where we think it's going to go in the future.
Okay, and you can download it for free. So what does someone have to do? First, they just go to safemoneyplan.net. Then what do they have to do to download the report?
That's right. All they have to do is go to safemoneyplan.net. It is 100% free. You just click on the banner. It's sitting right there on the homepage. Enter a little bit of information, and it's yours.
All right. Thanks, Taylor. It's The Changing Story of Retirement. You can download that right now at safemoneyplan.net. That's S-A-F-E, safemoneyplan.net. At the Presley Group, it's about giving you a safe and secure retirement, because retirement is changing in America. I mean, I know my grandparents, retirement meant, sit around and do a bunch of nothing. Today, retirement means you do and you go. But Bob Powell from MarketWatch.com recently wrote an article entitled Retirement in America is Endangered. I had a chance to speak with him about why retirement is endangered. Robert, there are a number of things to talk about in the article, Retirement in America is Endangered. Let's start with number one, and that's Social Security. That really is the great mystery that lies ahead for many of us, right?
That's right. So the biggest problem is that the Social Security trust funds will be exhausted in the year 2036, and at that point, there will only be enough income coming in to pay 77% of the scheduled benefits. So that's just a generation away from now, and the longer we wait, the worse the problem becomes.
Would you say to someone who's close to retiring, maybe they're already 60, would you say Social Security is going to be okay for you, but maybe if you're in your 40s, Social Security would look different? Where is that breaking point, do you think?
Well, I think most people tend to put the break point around age 50 or 55. Age 50 tends to be the age at which people start planning for retirement in earnest. And so if you start changing plans for people who are over age 50, certainly over age 55, you're disrupting their retirement income plans. and it's less so for folks who are under age 50. And one of the things that happened many years ago was that President Reagan had put in place a commission led by Alan Greenspan in 1981. And 2 years after they put that commission in place, they were able to come up with a plan to raise the full retirement age and have it be phased in over a number of years, so that it went from age 65 to 67. And today, most people don't even feel that the full retirement age had been raised on them. And so I think the same could be done today, that for anyone under age 50, maybe we raise the retirement age from 67 to 70, let's say. And that could go a long way toward relieving some of the pressure that's on Social Security today.
Our guest is Bob Powell with MarketWatch.com. Bob, you point out in the article that a lot of people, when surveyed, their big concern is they just don't think they're going to have enough money in retirement. Recently, something like 13%. Only 13% thought, yes, I've got plenty of money for retirement. You point out in the article that you write, one of the big changes will be people worried about making their money last, not how big their nest egg really is, right?
Well, it's sort of a double-edged sword. So on the one hand, people know that they don't have enough money saved for retirement, and they don't know how to manage it so that it does last a lifetime. And I think one of the big risks that people face is not that they'll run out of money per se, but that they'll run out of lifestyle. That over time, as they see that they're depleting their assets, they will slowly reduce their standard of living to a point that they never anticipated or envisioned when they were planning for retirement. So the trick, obviously, is to save as much as possible. Right now, what we know is that people are only saving, on average, 8% in their 401k, at least those who have it, and that the better contribution rate would be closer to 10, if not higher, and that would at least give folks a chance of retiring, combined with Social Security, around to replace about 80% of their pre-retirement income, which people say is not a bad replacement ratio. And
for many people, that replacement is going to, in your article you point out, that's going to have to involve some kind of income plan, right? That okay, at least I know I have X coming in to supplement Social Security, whatever that looks like, and pensions, whatever those may look like, correct?
That's right. And a lot of people think, well, I'll just, the common rule of thumb is that I'll just withdraw 4% of my retirement assets, and that's enough to make my money last a lifetime, however long that might be. Well, one of the things that we know today is that, Federal Reserve Chairman Ben Bernanke just said that we're going to keep interest rates at near zero for the next 3 years, which will really put pressure on people who are trying to withdraw income from their portfolios. They won't be able to live off interest and dividends alone. They'll have to start, dipping into their principal, and that will deplete their funds even, faster than they had anticipated. So having a plan that says, I know how much I'm going to take under what conditions, what interest rate environments or what real estate conditions, is very important. And people need to develop different options and revisit this plan every year. For some, it may mean that they have to keep working or return to the workforce. For others, it might mean that they take the equity out of their home, they sell their house, they move into a smaller place and generate some income from the assets, from the equity that they might have in their house. For some, it might even mean delaying Social Security, or at least understanding how to get the most highest benefit from Social Security. So in the old days, people could just retire and live off their defined benefit and Social Security and maybe some part-time work. Those days are gone. Today we have to be much more sophisticated about how we approach building a retirement income plan.
Bob Powell from MarketWatch.com. This is Your Money Matters, presented by the Presley Group. Christy Smith joining me now. Christy, the owner, founder, and president of the Presley Group. Great stuff from Bob Powell. Kind of scary. Retirement in America is endangered, he says. And I thought the most powerful thing he said, Christy, was at the very end. The days of saying, well, I'll just kind of rely on the market, rely on bonds, whatever, to provide my retirement income. Those days are over, and you have to be more sophisticated. And that's what we do. We are retirement income specialists. That's exactly how we help people.
Well, we've seen that for quite some time now, Matt, that we do in retirement have to do things differently than, say, our grandparents did. The old adage is, let's invest our money in the stock market, hope it gives us a solid return, and hope we never outlive it. But the reality is we're living so much longer in retirement now that we really can't have it as a guessing game. We have to know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the great thing is that there are plans and tools available for us to use that can really create that solid, secure retirement.
I like that word tools. There's a story I don't think I've ever told you that relates right here. I was 13 years old. I may have only been 12. I was 12 or 13. And grew up in Irwinville, down Highway 190. And my dad is a pastor, so my dad had to go to a Bible conference for 3 days. And we had just moved into our trailer there, and my dad and I used a shovel, 2 of them. We had to dig this long ditch for the gas line that ran from where the gas meter was by the church back to our home, back of the property. I guess it was 100 yards. It was a lot of shoveling. So we dug it, put the gas line down, and then my dad got ready to leave to go to Dallas and said, "Son, I'll be back in 3 days. When I get back, make sure that all that dirt is back in that hole." Now, this is a 100-yard long gas line, maybe a foot deep. So he was leaving on a Wednesday and coming back I think Saturday. Now, do you think I started working on that on Wednesday?
Well, no. Kids tend to put off what doesn't have to be done today.
My dad was about 2 hours from getting home, and I thought, gee, I should start working on that ditch. So, it was a futile effort, right? I was never going to make it in time, and so I'm out there. Well, there's also a gentleman with a tractor and a grader box, and he's out there putting in, leveling the dirt for the church that we were constructing. And he sees I'm struggling. Now, I didn't talk to him. He didn't know I needed a better tool to get the job done, but he felt sorry for me, I guess. And he takes his grader box and in about a minute rakes all the dirt back into the ditch.
Wow.
And I thought,
you got a lot of brownie points.
I said, man, I am in heaven. I don't have to do the work. So my dad comes home, goes out and looks at the ditch and says, "Good job." Of course, I didn't say a word, and he said, "Did you drive the tractor?" He figured it out. But my point is, we can rely on a shovel to do that job, but there's a tool that does better. And we have the tools that are guaranteed to give you that retirement income. It's all about the right tool.
Now, when you were thinking about, filling the ditch back in, did you ever stop to think that there could be a tool that could help you better?
No.
Or you really only thought about that shovel?
I only thought about the shovel. You know why? Well, of course, I was young, but a shovel is what I'd always used. A shovel is what we used to dig the ditch. A shovel is what Grandpa used. A shovel was the only thing that I knew to use. And, of course, my procrastination didn't help. But I didn't plan properly. That was the problem. I put off like a typical kid and like a lot of adults. I put off doing the job, and so I didn't know there was another way.
That's the most amazing thing about the whole story, Matt, is that you didn't know there was another way, and then someone came along and showed you that there was.
And boy, was it great. Was I relieved? Because I was going to get a whipping if I didn't have that ditch filled in,
Well, we've been helping people. I've personally been helping people for 17 years now. In May. So 16 years and, almost 17, helping people protect their money and plan for retirement. And there are tools available that help us do things differently now than we did 20, 30 years ago.
Right.
And these tools are really designed with a foundation of, number one, safety. When we think about our money in the stock market, we don't right now, because the market's been so good, we don't really think about the volatility because we've made so much over the last year and a half. But really, the stock market does have a lot of risk associated with it. If you go back and think to, say, 2008, you can remember the pain losing money in your stock market accounts, your 401ks, your IRAs. And what happens is that we tend to forget that pain as the stock market comes back and we start seeing those gains. But the reality is that, if you're still working and saving, maybe the stock market's not a bad place for you. But where we really have to start thinking about things differently is when we get in that retirement red zone. So when we get about 5 years from retirement, we have to start planning differently. I can remember in 2008, many people sitting at my conference room table telling me that they were going to retire in the next year or two. And because of the changes with the stock market, they had to rethink their plan.
They had to keep working.
They had to work another 4 or 5 years. And so these tools have gotten better and better in time. And I tell you, we've got some great tools designed to protect you during retirement, give you that principal protection, give us above average growth potential. And certainly we do need that. The problem is that when we think about something safe, we typically think there is no growth opportunity
That's
available. And that is absolutely not the case. We've got a great plan designed for income with a company called Security Benefit. This plan's designed to give us an 8% bonus up front. It's designed to give us a minimum growth for our income bucket of 7% a year every year until we access it as an income. Now, talk about powerful. If you are 5 years from retiring, maybe you're 60 years old and you want to work until you're 65, this might be the perfect strategy for you to protect some of that 401k that you've already got, protect it, and yet still grow it with a solid contractual guarantee from the insurance company.
That way, when you do retire, there's no guesswork. It's kind of like taking the grater box behind the tractor and just, boom, you're done. You've got something set in stone. Now, Christy said 401k, and you may be thinking, yeah, but I can't move my 401k until I retire, right? Well, actually, most companies allow something called an in-service distribution, fancy IRS terminology for once you hit 59 and a half, not all, but many companies will allow you to move some of your funds out of your 401k into an IRA. So typically what we'll see is someone will come sit down with us for a free, no obligation consultation, and we'll talk about, what sources are you going to have in retirement? Do you have a pension, Social Security, IRAs, after-tax money, etc.? And we can structure a plan that says, okay, we know what your essential need is in retirement. You got to pay the light bill. You got to eat. You need some gas for the car. You need some medicine. The essential needs. By the way, all these things are getting more and more expensive. And then we can say, okay, what do you have? What do you have to have for essential needs? And where is that guaranteed income coming from? Well, one source is Social Security, but if you don't have a pension, it may be perfect to look at taking some of your 401k, even while you're working, put it into a plan that gives you guaranteed growth so that then 5-6 years down the road, you can turn on guaranteed income, and that income will last as long as you live and as long as your spouse lives, and it augments your Social Security. Christy, I hate to keep, beating the dead horse here, but that's the analogy of the shovel versus the grater box. If you don't know there's another way to do things, well, you just keep on doing things the way you've always done them. There are better ways. There are better plans.
I teach my kids, Matt, that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we see that in this environment with people that are planning for retirement. They think that their money has to go in the stock market. They think they has to bear the risk. They think that that they have to absorb all of that volatility. And the fact is that they do not have to do that. There are plans available that can eliminate that. And you're right, Matt, you don't know what you don't know. And we're here to help make a difference. We want to help teach you what's available. There's lots of different plans available. I mentioned Security Benefit, but that may not be the right plan for you. We have a lot of different plans available. We are independent, so we are contracted with, so many different insurance companies, and we offer the very best plans available. And so each of you are going to have different needs. And sometimes we will actually implement 2 or 3 different plans within one retirement portfolio so that we can accomplish your goals. Again, each one of you are going to have your own needs. Let us help you. Let us look at your situation, talk about your goals, and help develop a plan. That's what this is all about. Developing a plan so that you know exactly where you're going and how you're going to get there.
Christy, I think about my ditch digging and ditch covering up analogy. Not only did I not have a plan, I did as a kid what so many people do as people approaching retirement. I procrastinated.
Well, we all do that.
Of course we do. Because, work gets in the way and life gets in the way. And my dad was coming home on a Saturday and I procrastinated and I was too late to really get the job done. Thank goodness there was a tool there that could help me. So the worst thing you can do is put off learning about the different tools that are out there to help you. And we're not saying that you put all your money into one of our plans. No, but are you going to be able to cover those essential needs? We always offer a free, no obligation consultation. It's a simple sit down at 791-5773. If you get the machine, leave us a message. We'll call you back on Monday and schedule that one-on-one, no obligation consultation.
Matt, one of the things that I try to teach my kids is that in order for them to be successful in life, they need to be faithful in their faith. You know that about me. Mm-hmm. That's really the foundation around everything we work with is our Christian values. And I really believe that when we think about our money and in terms of being a good steward of our money, I tend to believe that. I don't tend to believe, I do believe that our money is really God's money, and we owe it to Him to be a good steward of that money. And being a good steward means that we're going to learn what are our options with protecting it. I don't think that it would be a good steward of our money if we just took our money and brought it to the casino and roll the dice. Mm-hmm. But the reality is the stock market really is not much different. It's just an educated guess. And then in addition to that, if we go to the casino, at least we know our odds. They'll give you a chart that tells you what are the odds of you losing or winning.
That's right.
In the market, you just don't know. And right now, what we're seeing is that, what happens globally affects our stock market here. 20, 30 years ago, that wasn't the case. Things are so different now. In fact, when I hired you 6 years ago, I can remember telling you that, the A word was probably the most dreaded word you could hear.
Annuity.
And that's because so many people heard the A word, which is annuity, and ran because they either knew somebody that had one that lost money or they just didn't know, But the reality is that even your economists now are coming out and saying point blank that you do need to secure your retirement income through the use of an annuity. And people ask me all the time, how much should I consider putting into different annuities?
Right.
And it's a real simple answer. We figure out how much you need, and we guarantee and secure that. If you want to take the rest of your money and invest it in stocks, bonds, and mutual funds, that's your decision. And you can feel more comfortable about doing that if you have already secured your retirement income.
Well, I'm sorry, but one of the concerns about buying bonds right now, not only are yields low, but when interest rates rise. Notice I didn't say if, because the Fed can only hold down rates for so long. Eventually, rates are going to rise. When those rates rise and you're holding that bond, if you need to go ahead and get out of that bond, or if it's called, you could end up actually losing money.
Well, it's not just a regular bond. Bond funds,
oh yeah,
bond mutual funds can even be more dangerous than, say, a actual bond.
That's correct. So the point is, it goes right back to what Bob Powell said about retirement in America is endangered. And again, for those who are just joining us, Bob Powell from Market Watch, Christy, he basically harped on the fact that, the 4% rule, set it and forget it. Those days are over. The market's too volatile. Interest rates are too low for that to work. That's why our fixed indexed annuity tools, and I like to call them tools because that's what they are. It's like the grater box versus the shovel. You just take that tool and you use it because first and foremost, it's going to protect you if the stock market crashes. Secondly, it can become guaranteed income. Now, if you're listening and you don't need guaranteed income, that doesn't mean we can't help you. Retirement income is our specialty, but a subset of that is protecting you from any and all market losses.
Well, absolutely. There's probably many of you sitting right now listening to this program that have money in the bank, in CDs, really making hardly nothing.
Yeah.
Just don't know of another way. We can help you with that type of money as well. Give our office a call at 791-5773, 791-5773. Schedule your complimentary visit, or you can even visit our website. We talked about our website earlier, safemoneyplan.net. There is a place on our website where you can request a consultation, or you can simply ask a question. There is an Ask Christy section, a link. Excuse me. There's a link on our website, Ask Christy, and go to our website and learn about these tools. We've got that learning center, and it's got a lot of valuable information. The worst thing you can do is absolutely nothing. It is absolutely the worst thing you can do.
Also, we mentioned earlier, Taylor was here talking about The Changing Story of Retirement. A great, great read. It's free to download. I think when you read that, you'll better understand what Bob Powell's talking about how retirement in America is endangered. It's a free download at safemoneyplan.net. Okay, Christy, you ready to play some Mythbusters? When we come back on Your Money Matters, we're going to talk about some of the most common retirement and retirement planning myths and bust those myths. Also, is it ever wise to borrow money from your 401k? Is that smart or dumb? That's our Ask Christy question of the week. We'll get to that when we come back on Your Money Matters, presented by the Presley Group.
It's just a paper loss. You're almost back where you were a few years ago. The markets always go up over time. These are all ploys that brokers use to keep your investments at risk so they can line their pockets with your hard-earned money while your portfolio stays in the crosshairs of volatility. If those phrases are all too familiar to you, it's time that you contacted your local trusted advisor for a second opinion. Call the Presley Group to schedule your no-cost consultation. The number is 791-5773. Take action today by calling to get the honest-to-goodness truth about where your retirement portfolio may be heading. Christy Smith and her team at the Presley Group are always eager to help you get on the path of your successful retirement. That number, once more, is 791-5773 or 800-791-5773. Call today and set up a free consultation with Christy or Matt.
Welcome back. Your Money Matters, presented by the Presley Group. Our website is safemoneyplan.net, safemoneyplan.net. We're going to talk about some of those big retirement myths and play Mythbusters here in a moment. But Christy, each week we like to read one of our questions from the Ask Christy file. When you go to safemoneyplan.net, a little box pops up. Christy's picture's in there. Good-looking picture, by the way.
Thank you.
And the magic of Photoshop, right, Christy?
Yes.
You know I'm picking at you. But anyway, the question that came in, and all you have to do is click the link there, and when you click that link, submit the question. We'll only use a first name on the air, and we pick one question a week, and this one's great. John sent us an email at safemoneyplan.net from the Ask Christy link. Should I ever take a loan against my 401k to pay off debt? He's got some high-interest credit card debt, and he's wanting to know, should he borrow from his 401k to pay off the high-interest rate debt? Now, what we don't know is how high is high, but let's assume it's double digits, okay? And I did ask, how much is the rate of interest on the loan you're borrowing from the 401k? It's 4.5%, which is not bad. But what does Christy say about borrowing from your 401k? How do you feel about that?
Well, I think it's a bad idea any way you look at it, Matt, because often if you do have credit card debt, you're able to go in and negotiate with those credit card companies to cut the rate and work out some payment terms so that you can pay them off without ruining your credit and tapping into your retirement money. But I'll tell you, this is a situation that I had to deal with a client just recently. They had done this exact thing. They took money out of their 401k as a loan to pay off some bills. Well, what happened was my client was then laid off of his job about 2 years later, and they still owed a substantial amount of money on the loan. Well, now they are faced with a high tax burden because they're young, they got a new job, and the loan was considered default. So what that means is that they took the money from the 401k to pay off the loan. Well, that created a huge taxable event.
And were they under 59 and a half?
Yes.
It created a 10% IRS penalty. Don't forget, if you withdraw funds from IRAs or 401ks before age 59 and a half, not only do you have to pay the taxes, you also have to pay the 10% penalty. So, and John, the emailer, is under age 59 and a half. So, John, we recommend don't do it, because if you do and something happens and you get laid off or something like that, you only have 60 days to repay the entire balance. And if you can't repay the entire balance and default, then, well, you're going to get hit with an IRS penalty. It's really a bad idea. Another reason it's a bad idea is a lot of people stop contributing to the 401k. They let the loan pile up interest. Then when you start back recontributing, a lot of your contributions paying off that loan, and you're falling further and further behind on savings.
It's just really a bad idea all the way around, Matt. In the situation that I was talking about earlier, this couple actually incurred about 25% in taxes.
Ouch.
Now, they were not ready for the ramifications of that situation. They did not have the money saved to pay for that tax consequence. And then ultimately, people will tend to go into the 401k and take more money to pay out the loan, to pay off the taxes.
Right.
It's just a bad idea. What I do suggest, John, is contact your credit card companies and see if there's any way that you can negotiate a lower fixed rate of interest. And often they will do that because it's more important to them that they get the money paid back to them. So I encourage you to contact each company. A lot of times even they'll take what's called a settlement, where if you could maybe pay them in a lump sum, they'll take less money. Maybe they'll take $1 for every two if you pay them off at one time versus scheduling a payment schedule. But the credit card companies are more than willing to work with you. And I do want to use caution in the future to you using credit cards. Dave Ramsey preaches about being debt free and only using your credit cards as a mean to, pay something and then pay it off at the end of the month.
Right.
You do not want to carry a lot of credit card debt. It's devastating. It's a situation that really never turns into something good.
So, John, that was 5 minutes to tell you, don't do it. If you have a question, just go to safemoneyplan.net, click Ask Christy. We'll email you an answer back within 72 hours, and we may even use your question like we use John's on the air.
We get a lot of questions each week, and what we try to do is sort through them and decide which question do we think that our listeners can learn the most from. So, if you don't hear your question live on the air, it's not that we're not answering it. We're just not answering it on the air.
Okay. I ran across a great article at foxbusiness.com, foxbusiness.com. Retirement myths not to believe. There's so many myths out there about everything. I love that show, Mythbusters. Don't you love it?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, I just love that show. Is the Loch Ness Monster real? So let's do some myth busting about retirement. And we're just going to kind of jump around to some of the points made in this article. Charles Schwab, the brokerage company, recently conducted a survey. And they found that there's lots of money myths and money misconceptions about retirement. I found the most interesting thing of all was this, Christy. They asked people, do you consider yourself savvy or extremely savvy about money? Or do you consider yourself not very savvy about money? The amazing thing is 52% of people who said, oh yeah, I'm very savvy about money, made huge mistakes and bought into certain myths that not so savvy people didn't. Interesting. Self-described financially savvy people were more likely to agree with this statement that if you need cash while working, a 401k is a good place to turn for a loan. That's what the extremely savvy people said. Those who said no, don't do that, they consider themselves less savvy. Well, guess which one's right?
Yeah,
we just talked about it.
How ironic that is.
Yep. Also, 37% of really financially savvy baby boomers mistakenly agreed that marital status does not affect your Social Security benefit. 27% of people who said, I'm not very financially savvy, they said, yeah, if you're married, your Social Security benefits change based upon marriage and how much you made and how much your spouse made. Can you believe people who were extremely financially savvy, Christy, did not get it about Social Security? And we talk about that all the time.
Well, Matt, of course being married makes a difference in your Social Security checks.
It's amazing how many Americans buy into the myth that, well, that makes no difference. I'll tell you another myth that many people buy into. The myth, it's really more ignorance than a myth, but the myth that you have a couple of choices with Social Security. You can claim it at 62. That's the earliest you can claim it. Or you can only claim it at your full age or 70. Christy, that is not the case. We have a great program here called the Social Security Optimizer. And to show you how powerful it is, I can take your benefit at your full age, your spouse's benefit at her or his full age, and the computer will spit out different scenarios, and it can make thousands of dollars of difference. Here's an example. I sat down with a guy named Dave earlier this week, and Dave is 64, and he was saying, I'm about to start taking my Social Security. His wife is 66, and she's already drawing hers. Combined, their Social Security was going to be about $45,000 a year. I said, Dave, look at this. The Social Security Optimizer says what you should do is wait a couple of years. Then at age 66, you can file what's called a restricted application and draw half of your wife's benefit. Then at 70, take your full benefit. You know how much difference that made? By the time he gets to 70, now they're getting about $63,000 a year.
You can really lose hundreds of thousands of dollars over your lifetime if you make the wrong decision. It's so important that you do learn about your Social Security options, because that's really mostly the foundation for most of us in our retirement plans. And so there are a lot of different options available with Social Security. You've got file and suspend. You've got restricted option. And those options are even changing too, because up until recently we had Social Security do-over, which is no longer available. You really need to learn what your options are. And we do have a free Social Security Optimizer report that we would be glad to run if you just come in and meet with us and give us the information needed. Give our office a call, schedule that complimentary visit. We're going to be glad to give you the Social Security Optimizer. Our office number is 791-5773. If you're listening to this show on Sunday morning, simply leave us a message. We'll give you a call back on Monday, 791-5773, or you can always visit our website, safemoneyplan.net.
On our website, you'll find the Learning Center. It's a great resource. Whether you're already retired or making plans for retirement, you can read lots of information there. Calculators are there. All kinds of great details in the Learning Center, free of charge at safemoneyplan.net. Now, a reminder, we also offer a free download, several of them as a matter of fact, but the one we're offering this week, want to focus on, is The Changing Face of Retirement. Bob Powell talked about how retirement is so much different than it was years ago. And now so many of you crave retirement income. I remember when I first came to work with you, Christy, back in late 2008, early 2009, as the market was melting down. I can remember before that, the real focus was, how much money have I saved? Now the real focus has become, will my income last? Will my nest egg last as income for me in retirement? And so you can read this free publication, The Changing Face of Retirement. It's on the website at safemoneyplan.net. Just go on there and request that free download. This is Your Money Matters, presented by the Presley Group. Okay, Christy, ready for another big myth? You're going to come unglued on this one.
Well, especially since I haven't seen them or read them.
But that's good. I'm getting your gut reaction. I know you, and you're going to come unglued. 43% of people surveyed in this Charles Schwab survey, we're talking about a survey about the biggest retirement myths, 43% said it's best if only one person in the family, husband or wife, makes all the financial decisions. That is a bad mistake, and it's a bad myth.
Well, it is a bad mistake and a bad myth. You know, in the old days, we typically saw where the male would make the financial decisions, but what we see now is that women are outliving men and needing to make those decisions on their own at some point in their life. So I think it's real important that we start making those decisions together early.
Yes.
You know, it's sad when I see a lady come in that has recently been widowed, and at 70 years old, they have to start learning about money. And it's sad because they tell me, my existing broker won't even look me in the eye. They think that I'm not important because they're used to dealing with my husband. And I encourage you not to put yourself in that position. We are women. We need to empower ourselves. We are smart. We're educated. And we need to learn and help make those financial decisions in the future.
All right, ready for another big myth? 91% of people who responded to this survey, 91% said a will is all you need to ensure that your assets go to the right people. Wow, that's a bad mistake.
Well, that's really, in fact, that upsets me more than the women not participating. Louisiana is a very unique state. We follow the Napoleonic Code, and we have to do things differently. And often a will is not the only thing that we need to protect our families. And so Matt and I are both certified estate planners. We're not attorneys, but we have gone through the training to help us recognize the things that you may need to help help you plan and protect your family. A will is often not good enough, but you'd be surprised, Matt, how many people don't even have a will.
Oh, I know.
I mean, people think that estate planning is only for the wealthy, and I say estate planning is for everyone. Think about it. If you're 25 years old, you have a 1-year-old child, you and your husband are working, supporting your family, all of a sudden there's a car accident and you're no longer here. What happens to that child if there's no direction as to who is going to take care of that child?
Yeah.
They end up in the court system. Everyone needs estate planning. And what we want to do is, when we think about estate planning, is we want to prevent succession as much as possible. We want to leave our heirs as beneficiary designations as much as possible. Now, that's not always an option, but everyone needs estate planning.
Well, the big myth that a will covers everything, let me shatter that myth by giving you a real life example. It happened in our office last year. I met with someone, and he had remarried. He had been divorced. And what we found out, that in the will, he had changed his will to reflect that the beneficiary of his IRA would be his new wife. But you know what, Christy? In the plan he was in, he never changed the beneficiary within the IRA itself. You know what? The will's not going to solve that problem.
No, because he thought that changing the will was going to change everything.
No.
But beneficiary designations override a will.
And I asked him, I said, you sure you want your ex-wife getting this account if you die? He goes, my ex-wife's not getting that. I changed that in my will. And I told him, I said, you changed it in the will, but the beneficiary designation of the investment, in this case the IRA, it overrides the will, my friend. He was shocked. He bought me dinner because I saved him from giving his ex-wife all of his money.
Well, and actually, Matt, about 5 years ago, we ran into a lady that was on the other end of that. She was the divorced spouse.
That's right.
And she did get the money.
So the myth is thinking a will solves all of your problems. That doesn't solve all of your problems. And like Christy said, as certified estate planners, we can help you walk through that. All right, a couple of more myths. We're talking about some of the biggest myths and even misunderstandings in retirement in this Fox Business article. Okay, I covered that one, sorry. 88% of people say it's very important to eliminate all debt when you retire. 88% say you should eliminate all debt. Christy, I think debt is a bad thing to have, a lot of debt when you're retired, but there is some debt which may actually be good. And let's see if you agree with this. If you're still paying on your home and you've got a low rate of interest, having that mortgage interest deduction may actually be a benefit to you.
Well, a lot of times people will come in, and as they prepare for retirement, they will ask, should they take the money out of their 401k and pay off their mortgage?
Yes.
And I will say that that's going to be the one time that I have to say no. That debt is typically at a low interest rate. You're able to write that interest off as on your income taxes.
Yep.
And also too, if you take out large portions of your 401k at one time, what's going to happen is you're going to incur a huge tax burden. You're going to have to pay ordinary income on that money. Well, if you take a $50,000 distribution out of your 401k to pay off on the house, and your income is $100,000, you could actually boost yourself into another tax bracket, and it can cost you a lot of money.
That's
so
right.
I would say in that one situation, I do believe it's not best to pay off that debt.
79% of people surveyed, baby boomers now, 79% said, well, if I can't make my ends meet in retirement, no problem, I can get a part-time job. I got to tell you, Christy, that's a gigantic myth. Try being 60 plus and getting higher today. It's not easy. We talk to clients all the time who maybe are seeking part-time work, and it's just the opposite. Their company's trying to buy them out to hire someone cheaper. So if you think you're just going to snap your fingers and get a job 60 plus in the workforce, not in this economy.
I actually was speaking to a lady earlier in the week, Matt, and she's only 47, and she implied that she was having trouble getting a job at 47. It's just not as easy as what you think it is.
And the survey pointed out that MetLife did a survey and found that 32% of retirees who wanted to work couldn't because of health reasons. That's a third, Christy. A third of Americans who say, well, I'm going to rely on part-time work to make my ends meet. They aren't able to because they aren't able to work. And that's why, if I can bring it all the way back around to the beginning of the show, that's why it's important to employ the right tools so that when you get to retirement age, you don't have to rely on a part-time job. You've got that safe, steady, guaranteed bucket there that can't be taken away from you if the market tanks.
And that's exactly what we do. We teach you how to secure your retirement plan, get it in an environment using tools that will allow for safety and growth and guaranteed income. Give us a call, schedule your complimentary visit to come in and meet with us. Let's sit down and talk about your goals, your concerns. Let us teach you how these new tools can help prevent you in the future from having to worry about market conditions. Let us help secure your retirement income. Guarantee that retirement income. Our number is 791-5773, 791-5773, or go to our website, safemoneyplan.net.
All right, 2 minutes left. We'll tackle one final myth, and this is a big one. I'm over 50. I don't have a whole lot saved. It's too late for me to start. The truth is, it's absolutely not too late. You just can't let the stock market rob what you're saving. We help people frequently who are over the age of 50. Maybe you've got an old 401k and you want to position it so that 10, 12, 15 years it becomes that guaranteed income. It's not too late to start. That's a myth. And I really urge you, if you're over age 59 and a half, to check with your employer. Ask about an in-service distribution. Just ask the HR person or the financial firm that handles your company's 401k. Just ask them, do they allow in-service distributions? They'll know what you're talking about. And if so, and you're over age 59 and a half, you can take some of your chips off the table, if you will, and take control of that money and position it so it becomes that guaranteed retirement income. Or if you left a job and you've got that old 401k you've never moved, now that you've left the job, you're free to move that 401k, and we can show you how to protect it and grow it safely. For Christy Smith, I'm Matt Kennedy. Thank you for joining us today for Your Money Matters. We'll be back at this same time next week. Remember, our website is safemoneyplan.net.